see so many faces here on a beautiful day like today. I know there's many other places you could have been, and those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. I hope that we'll have an opportunity afterwards to meet personally and start a relationship, hopefully, that will last quite some time. I thought that today I will talk about happiness and its causes, because I think that that is the one thing we all have in common. Of course, in the past we've done many workshops focusing in on happiness, but then you cannot talk about happiness enough. It is the one thing that we all are in pursuit of. And alas, for most of us, it continues to elude us. Happiness is a great art. It is a great science. And unless we have a deep understanding of spiritual science, then the possibility of achieving the goal of happiness is not likely. So we're going to talk a little bit about happiness today and its causes and some of the things that we might be able to do to enable ourselves to have that long-sought experience. I'm looking in the audience for someone, particularly I don't see their face here. After all, they threatened me. They said if I begin without them, they actually have contracts out on me. So you all have to understand I'm under a lot of pressure here. See, they didn't want to miss any talks on happiness today. But you see, brothers and sisters, that fundamentally is what we're after. If you look very closely, every activity that we are engaged in is rooted in our fundamental motive to attain happiness and peace. Fundamentally. The problem, of course, is that we don't know how to do that. That is why you are unhappy. Please make a note. If you are unhappy, then by definition, you do not know how to be happy. So we won't have to get into a lot of mixing of words here, right? The subject is straightforward. And the same sages and mystics who have left their writings and teachings from time immemorial have advocated a certain system, a certain approach that we will be able to achieve happiness by following. Later on, of course, these approaches and techniques and systems deteriorate into institutional religion. But when they were fresh, when they were alive, when Jesus was actually on the planet, when a Muhammad or a Kabir or a Dadu or a Mahavir, when these great mystics and saints was actually alive, it was a very different phenomenon than what we witness today. It has caused us, therefore, to discredit these great sages and saints, you see. By looking at the activities and the behavior of the Christians, now, who could have any respect for Christ when this is the behavior exhibited by those who profess to be his disciples? When we look at the Mohammedans, when we look at the Muslims today, who can in their right mind really become passionate about Islam when those who are so-called followers of the Prophet are blowing each other up at an alarming rate? The same is the case with Buddha and the Buddhists, or Krishna and the Hindus, or Rebbe Moses and the Jews. So we see then that inevitably over time, there is some kind of deterioration that eventually emerges in the form of religion. But it does not mean that the knowledge is not on the planet. The knowledge has always been on the planet. It will always be on the planet. Therefore, what we have to do is embark on a search. And that's what most of us have been doing most of our life. You see. Fortunately or unfortunately, whichever the case may be, many of you have sought to find truth in the key to happiness and have been searching high and low. It is very interesting. The one place you have not searched for has been in yourself. It's very interesting. Happiness, peace of mind, and all of those things that we are searching for high and low in the temples, in the synagogues, in the huwadas, the churches, is really within ourselves. The problem is how to go within ourselves and to access this happiness, this peace of mind. And that is the subject of the teachings of the saints and sages. Before we go any further, a few things more we will have to look at, and that is the reality of suffering, misery, sorrow. And most of us aggravate our misery simply because we do not know how to manage our suffering and our sorrow. And this suffering and sorrow is inevitable. There will always be suffering and sorrows in all of our lives. And unless we have a system to effectively and appropriately manage our sorrows and suffering, then it simply makes the achievement of happiness all the more impossible. Now, the great saints and sages says that fundamentally the experiences that we have are the result of our own doing. Now, this is interesting. The great mystic, His Holiness Jesus the Christ, says that you are merely reaping what you have sown. All saints, all mystics talk about the law of karma. The ancient Africans called it the laws of reciprocity, ma'at, balance. There is a force that tends to mete out justice in the universe that guarantees that you will simply reap what you sow. So if there is misery in our life, we need not blame God. That is the first thing, because some of you are angry at God and have been angry at God a long time. As if God has done this to you. As human beings, we had the freedom to act, but we did not have the freedom to transcend the consequences of those actions, you see. So our misery, our sufferings, our sorrows, ultimately have to be owned. We have to become responsible. First step, and stop blaming everybody. Have some dignity about this thing, you see. And that is the first form of the mismanagement of suffering, because we try to blame it on somebody. If not God, then your wife, then your husband. Now, if I just had a different husband, I'll be happy. This is what you say. If I had a better job, different neighborhood, then I will be happy. And I'm not happy because of it's their fault. Now, this is ignorance. It is ignorance par excellence. The first insight we have to have, therefore, is that our miseries and our suffering and our sorrows, as well as our happiness and our moments of pleasure, are all outcomes of our own actions, our own karma. And therefore we have to deal with ourselves. And the mystics say that we have to begin to examine the way we live and the role that the way we live is playing in a generation of this misery. And they say that we have to look at several areas. Now, I've talked extensively on those, you see, in the past. And I refer those of you who might be interested in taking a detailed look in these particular categories of life living that these mystics have cautioned us and pointed out that we should pay attention to. I refer you to Bilal or somebody here in the house, and they will be more than happy to guide you through that material. But I want to just briefly mention just these things on the surface, if it's okay with you. The first thing they say, that if you have understood the law of karma, then that means that there are certain codes of conduct that you should follow if you are intelligent and wish to minimize your suffering. The ancient ancestors had a whole list of them. They call them the 42 negative confections. For those of you who are familiar with Afrocentrism, The Jewish mystics codified it in the laws of Moses, the Ten Commandments, and so forth and so on. And all of these cultures, you will find there has been a set of guidelines by following which one is bound to increase one's experience of happiness and minimize one's experience of sorrow and suffering. And of course, in understanding that, certainly one will have a better attitude, because a lot of the suffering is just because of your attitude. Because you've been thinking that you have done nothing wrong to deserve the suffering, the misery that you are experiencing. You have been thinking you are perfect, that you have no flaws, that you have not violated nobody, that you've not caused anybody any harm, whether intentionally or unintentionally. So a lot of it has to do with our attitudes, you see, that we've taken. But these mystics say that certainly, if we look at our behavior and the role it plays in the experience of our suffering and our sorrows, there will be certain things that you would definitely want to manage appropriately. One, they say that you have to look and see to what extent you are involved in the actual taking of life on this earth. Because the law is that if you take life, then some life has to be taken from you. If you harm and hurt, then you in turn will have to experience and undergo harm and being hurt. And they call the concept ahimsa, harmlessness. The first thing is to do is to begin to regulate your life according to the understanding of ahimsa, harmlessness, reverence for life. And not just the various forms of human existence, all life, including nature. It is very interesting in the West. We have came to the conclusion that somehow we exist outside of nature. Somehow that the earth, you see, is just a source of unlimited resources, you know, that we can go on digging into and pulling things out and living merely on our way. Of course, this is not the case. You see. So we don't even have reverence for each other. We don't have reverence for the planet. We don't have reverence for nature. And as a result of that, you see, we create a lot of negative karma in the way we interact. Now these cows and pigs have life. Life that is as dear to them as your life is to you. Is it not? And then on some holiday, you slaughter millions of them to drink beer and to play music and to dance. Now you will pay for it. Their slaughter is not necessary for this at all. We slaughter them simply for entertainment and to appease our appetites. You understand? Now we can rationalize it, but rationalizing it will not excuse you from the consequences of those actions. And remember, some of you come on the path, you write me and say, "Oh, Bhagwan, why am I suffering?" Well, you killed 20 million pigs before you came on the path. What do you expect? You hurt all kinds of people in your nonsense. And then you come to the path, and now you think all of a sudden that somehow you should be liberated from the consequences of your karma. It does not work like that, folks. You will pay. There is no path that you can go to that you will not pay. Please make a note of that, because many people are attracted toward the spiritual path because they think that by getting on a spiritual path, by becoming a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist or a Hindu, that somehow they will be excused for their past actions and deeds. No such thing at all. Yes, the path will help you manage your suffering better. Yes, the path will help you manage the consequences of your action, your karma, better. Yes, but it will not remove it. So this has to be clearly understood. Because if you don't understand that, then you find yourself simply hopping from one path to the next path. Many of you have done that your whole life. Now today you're here at the house of Ra, tomorrow you will be somewhere else, and then next week you'll be somewhere else. And you have like this been hopping all over the place in search of some magic that will somehow make you free from the consequences of your own negative actions. There is no such magic. Living in the West, We are so filled with this McDonald mindset that you come to the path, you want to hear a few teachings, read a few books, Bhagwan, what is the clue? You know, give me a mantra, and presto, you have attained. It does not work like that at all. And so I want to make this very clear so that I don't waste your time, you see. I don't want to do that to you see. I offer no magic solutions to suffering and sorrow at all, other than that which is generated by understanding and intelligence. That is all we have at the house. I can share with you some of the knowledge of these great mystics that will help you manage your suffering and your sorrow in such a way that you barely feel it, but it will be there. So the first thing then you see is that we have to begin to look and see the role that our interaction with life in the total sense has been the basis for a lot of ours. How much harm, how much hurt we have, how much guilt. Of course, the next thing that we have to look and see, and again we're talking now things that you're doing at the level of your body. These are activities, negative activities that we engage in with our bodies that generate negative experiences. The next one is what you've been doing with your sexuality. The inability to manage this natural need and urge for procreation. When you mismanage it, it will generate a lot of problems. And now you are making babies long before you have fallen in love with the woman. Now, this is going to be a problem, brothers. Because how will you take care of a woman that you don't love and a child you don't want? Problems. And of course, for the women, nothing will dysfunction you more severely than the premature giving of birth to a child. Will throw you in a twist, and you will never recover. Because your responsibility as a mother will remain fixed. You will have to choose. There are some hard choices. And very often, these are the situations that is giving you the most misery. And why are you in that situation? For one night stand. You mismanaged your sexuality. And it has trapped you. Now again, I am not going to go into these things deeply. I just want to mention a few of them here and there, see, so that I could get on to the other one. This mismanagement of sex. One of the other things that we do is things that we do at the level of our mind. The way we use our speech determines a lot of the suffering that we are under. Now, with our speech, many of us have been so violent. We have heard so many people say so many things to hurt people. Now we're going to have to undergo that. The law mandates it. And that means that we will be victims then of somebody else hurting our feelings. And so many of us are still carrying around the pain and the misery that we underwent as a result of somebody hurting our feelings. That it might have hurt our feelings when we were children. And today, 40 years later, we're still pained because of that injury. So there are things that we do at the level of speech that contributes to the problem of misery or something. Now, I want to fast forward past all of these things. As I said before, there's tapes in the library full of this kind of stuff. I just wanted to give you a little basic information so that you can get in rhythm with me as we move deeper into it. Now, folks, the bottom line of the whole phenomena of suffering and misery is your ego. This preoccupation with yourself. As long as your whole approach toward life is one of self-gratification and aggrandizement, accumulation for yourself, you will be miserable. There. Please make a note of that. As long as you are functioning out of this egocentricity, this me, and the hell with the rest of the people and the planet, you will suffer because your existence is not independent of the rest of the planet. Please make a note of that. It is not like you exist in some isolation. That's only in your mind. It's only in your imagination. It's not a part of reality. You are part of an ecosystem, interdependence, mutual dependency. Brother Andrew, if we kill all the plants, we will all suffocate. We will perish. You see? Get rid of all these people that are getting on your nerve, and you will cease to exist. But it is this ego of ours, this feeling of being separate. I'm using ego in the classical mystical sense today. You see, not one of its derivatives, arrogance or vanity. I want to deal with the heart of it all, this ego of ours, this feeling of being separate and disconnected and therefore having no responsibilities to nobody else on this planet except ourselves. And our whole approach to the planet, to people, to animals, to everything is how to use them in such a way to gratify ourselves. And this kind of uninterruption of self-gratification is what you're calling happiness. What you mean when you say you want to be happy, it means that you don't want nobody to interfere with your pleasure fulfillment process. Right? Don't get in my way of gratification here, right? If you cooperate and stay out of my way, I like you. I love you, in fact, right? Because you're not a problem to me. You're not asking me for nothing. You allow me to exploit you, to use you as a means of gratifying myself. You are all right with me. Love you. And if the other person is not going to cooperate with me, will not submit themselves to me so that I may use them, exploit them in order to gratify myself, now I hate you. You see? And I have to kill you, or harm you. You see? This ego then is the foundation of our suffering and our sorrow because it is our preoccupation with ourself. Please make a note of that. It is interesting. Being a psychotherapist, in recent years, psychotherapy has went to another level called transcendental psychology. It is an approach to mental and emotional disorders that does not seek to deal with the ego of the individual because that is the malady. That is the illness. Rather, the therapy is aimed at enabling that person to transcend their ego. Transcend the ego, and automatic peace is there. But you've been thinking you are your ego, so hence the clinging. I am my ego. I am my set of likes and dislikes. I am my set of appetites, you see? And you become identified with that. And then that you think also is separate and independent. You see the dilemma? It's a double bind. You're suffering from deep illusion. First, that you're separated. Two, that you are this set of ambitions and goals and desires that you become identified with. In the transpersonal, transcendental approach, you see, one is made capable of dropping all of it, transcending that. And in the process, discover one's real identity and re-enter into a state of peace and bliss, which is already glorious. So the question ultimately, when we talk about the pursuit of happiness, right, and the avoidance of suffering and misery, is reduced to how you dealing with ego. How you dealing with ego. even when we come to these great mystics and saints and sages, the ego is still there because now we want them to, now Buddha, you do this way because I don't want to change my life. It's convenient. You see? Jesus, you change the teachings. You see? You accommodate me. Interesting. Right? So even coming to a spiritual path, the function of a spiritual path is to destroy your ego. Please make a Jesus says that I come with a sword. With a sword. Because Islam says that I will behead you. I am death. Right? I'm Kawaki. The intent is to kill your ego. You see? And remember, you need help to kill your ego because of your own, you can't do it. It's all you got. And you cling to it, you hold to it, you nurture it. You've had it all your life. It's become dear to you. How can you kill it? You see? And that is the great advantage of encountering these great gurus and saints and sages. Is that they take from us our ego. It will be painful, yes. Of course. But just as when one gives birth, the women in the room understand, once that birth pain subsides, oh, the bliss that follows is equally unbearable. And that is what it's like the death of you. And how does the mystic do that? They initiate us into a process that dissolves our ego. They give us the technique of meditation and seva. It is these two techniques then that the gurus and saints and sages give to us, by following which we dissolve ego. And when the ego dissolves, you are already in a state of bliss. It's not that there's something you can do. Please make a note. Happiness is not something you achieve. Happiness is already the case. It is already your nature. Think about it for a moment. If you are truly made in the image of God, and God is love, and God is bliss, and God is joy, and He's all of these things to an infinite degree, and you're made in this image, then by definition, you must be made out of the same stuff. You must be love. You must be joy. You must be bliss. The great Detroit poet Smokey Robinson years ago made a song called You Must Be Loved. He was right. You must be loved. By definition. So it's not something that you achieve. You need not do anything to achieve that which you are already are. Do you follow my point? Right? It's almost like saying you're a woman and you want to try to become a woman. Now this is nonsense. It's a tautology in philosophy. It doesn't make sense. It's nonsensical. Now you're a man, but you are trying to become a man. What is that? It is ignorance. You're already happy, but you're trying to become happy. It's also nonsense. It is also ridiculous. You are already made in the image of bliss. The problem is you're just not aware of it. And why aren't you aware of it? Because you are distracted by your ego. You are misidentified with your true nature, and you suffer. And the methods that the saints, out of their great compassion and wisdom, make available to us is meditation and seva. So we will be talking about those things. But remember, this talk is only for those who've had enough of this suffering. Now, if you're not suffering enough, okay, then go to sleep, get a book. There's books there. We should bring extra books so that people will not be unnecessarily bored. You see? Because this is not for you. And if you still think that you got some more strategies and schemes that by executing you will generate the experience of happiness, this talk is really not for you. You need to exhaust that. I don't condemn that. That's all right. It has its place, you understand? It is a stage of spiritual development and unfoldment, much like childhood and its relationship to adulthood. How would you be an adult if you tried to skip childhood? So we mustn't, I don't want to give you the impression I'm condemning that.
Go ahead, exhaust. My advice is to speed it up, get it on. Stop messing around with it. Go buck wild with this thing. Get into it, 100%. So that you can hurry up and exhaust that and come to the realization. Many people have. Go look at the millionaires. They have made all the money that can be possibly made, more money they're going to ever need in their life, and they still are miserable. All of the people that got all of the stuff you said that you had, if you had, you would be happy. Go look at it and see how they have. You'll find it like that. Happiness is not an outside achievement. So the problem is not adding things. The problem is subtraction, just the reverse. Start dropping stuff. Start peeling away your nonsense. And automatically you will become happy. It is already the case. And meditation is that technique by which we peel off of this nonsense. Savor is that technique by which we peel off and emerge out of our nonsense. That technique by which we dissolve and transcend the ego and come back into a natural state of peace. Meditation, we've talked so much about it, but you could never say enough about meditation. Meditation, fundamentally, is that process by which we resurrect this divinity within us. Meditation is that process by which we remove the obscurations of the light of the divine that is shining within us. Maharaj used to always use an example. He said that this light of bliss that resides at the core of our being has many covers over it. It has a covering of individuality, ego, this false sense of separateness. That is a thing that covers up our reality. It is an illusion, fundamentally. So we have this sense of individuation as the first cover. Then on top of that cover of individuation is the mental body, the mind, the mental process itself, thinking. You understand? And that now further obscures the light. And on top of that mental body, the mind, we have the astral, the emotional, psychological body that now even further obscures. And then of course finally we put on this physical body. So that now there's almost no light coming out. And the process of recovery in its greatest art, it is like recovery. Just like recovery requires coming out of denial, there's no way to recover as long as you're in denial. Now, as long as you're in denial about your sorrows and your suffering, your misery, as long as you're playing this ego game where you're throwing out this false persona, right, trying to pretend that you have it, that is denial. There is no recovery for you. You have not hit rock bottom. That's why I said speed up the process. Go on, get rock bottom with this thing, because now you've understood you need some help. The alcoholic, the drug addict has to come to that point where they have exhausted all attempts to transcend their addictions that has caused them so much suffering, and they have to acknowledge, I need some help. I can't do this by myself. That is the attitude that we approach these mystics and sages. But as long as you think you can do something, you're not ready for this yet. Doesn't make you bad, you're just not ready. You haven't hit rock bottom. There's another problem with that, though, is that you don't know how much time you got. So you haven't factored in death, did they, Bradley? Right? You're thinking that you might live till you're 99, and by that time you could have exhausted and executed all your strategies. But you may not live past today. Tonight may be your last night on the planet. Yes, the master says that the only way to do that is if you look with intelligence and examine all of these strategies and move through them vicariously, right? And see clearly with great intelligence, like working a math problem, see its consequences. You need not put yourself through that first. You understand? You can see the outcome. You must become a seer. Just hearing teachings, hearing the dharma of the gurus enable you to see for the first time. They remove your blindness. They become like collyrium in your eyes. And for the first time, you can see the outcome. They help you see by pointing you out your own path. Now look at your own path. Look at all the thousands of schemes and strategies that you have concocted. Right? Under the same belief that, ooh, but what if I just could get this woman and marry her? Ooh, like this, right? And all those things have happened. And you're still miserable. At least this is much intelligence we all should have, where we can simply look back over our life. And then there are those who are terrified. Well, ooh, I'm miserable and I want to do something about my misery, but I'm scared to do something. Now you're in a double dilemma. You scared and miserable. That's a hell of a statement. Not just your fear adds some more pain. Right? I can't take a risk because I don't know what's going to happen, but now your uncertainty in them is added to your misery. And you're in a double dilemma. Just hearing the teaching sometimes, right, give us that inner vision, that distant vision, where we can see our nonsense. But the requirement is honesty. You must be honest with yourself. You must be ruthlessly honest with yourself. I mean, cold-bloodedly honest with yourself to really benefit from the teachings. Because remember, this is not the first time you've heard teachings. If you subscribe to the notion of reincarnation, then there must have been millions of lifetimes. And in those millions of lifetimes you must have come across a Buddha, or a Jesus, or a Muhammad, or a Moses, or a Kabir, or a Datu, or a Ptah. Somewhere in your past life, you must have sat at the feet of a great teacher, whom you did not listen to. That's why you're in this situation. That's why you're in this situation now. But your problem is you still think you know what you're doing. And the reality, just look in your life, will demonstrate you do not know what you're doing at all. And you got to accept that. And that's hard because now there comes your vanity. This false image that you have concocted of yourself, this ego mythology that you've generated about yourself. I got too many degrees to be this ignorant, Bhagwan. I'm too old. How can I be this ignorant, man? I've been on the planet 50 years. Surely you jest, right? No, we do not jest. Your life is the evidence of your ignorance as it pertains to happiness. So we have to be rooted with ourselves, you see, firm with ourselves. That is the only way that we will be receptive to these great teachings in this lifetime. If not, then you will simply, again, go through the dying process. Very painfully, of course. Like a coward, of course. Right? Reincarnate again. Who knows? You may not even be lucky enough to get this precious human birth the next time. You may be one of those pigs that you are so interested in eating every morning. You may be one of those chickens that you just love barbecuing. Right? Because you're making the assumption you will get this birth again. That's a big assumption. You not live well enough, perhaps, to get this birth again. This birth, this human body you have gotten after millions of lives. You have accumulated all kinds of virtue and merit in order to get this human birth. This is a rare phenomenon. You see, this don't happen much. If you just look at the variety of forms that life has taken throughout the cosmos, who can put a number on that? It is a number so large we can't even conceptualize it, right? And out of that infinite number of the variety of forms that life has taken throughout the cosmos, you're talking about 5 billion human beings. That's nothing in comparison to the totality of forms that life has taken. This thing is rare. It's a rare opportunity. And we have to learn to begin to appreciate that. The whole idea is that we got to get real, folks. the young folks say, you got to keep it real. You're going to have to start getting real. You don't have the luxury to do all of this armchair commentation, right? You're not going to live long enough to examine all the possibilities. You're on your way out of here, and you don't know. Right? You're dragging your foot around, and you don't see death hovering over your shoulder. That's all. So there's no urgency. Understanding death, understanding your mortality, understanding the fact that you don't know when this life will end, creates the requisite urgency on the path. You see? Now, out of that urgency, you can hear for the first time. You see? So we begin to now appreciate the wisdom of these great sages and seers. You see? And why their names are still being remembered today. You see? Now, in Satra, 10,000 years from now, nobody is going to remember our name. You see? We will not be remembered like a Jesus or a Buddha. We will not have impacted. We've done nothing. We've done nothing to help nobody. Why should they remember us? Right? Save us. You see? Save us. This service to humanity. Because when you serve humanity, who are you really serving? Of course. Of course. Because you are not disconnected. And you have to understand this. You have to, you're going to have to get at least enough freedom from your ego and this illusion about your separateness to understand there is no distinction between thou and that. Tat Twamasi, the Vedas says. Those old rishis understood something. Thou art that. You are humanity, and humanity is you. There is no separation. It is an interdependency. Whom do the bell toll for? For thee. Make no mistake about it. It is a very wrong understanding and processing of reality. Sometimes it is amazing. How can we even get this kind of wrong conclusion? Do you understand the depth of our ignorance? Reality is so absolute on this issue. It is such an absolute truth. It's amazing how you could have came to such a different conclusion. Isn't it? I mean, how in the world, sister, did you come to the conclusion that you exist independent of the planet that is given your body its actual form, that is giving you birth? How in the world did we come to the conclusion that we exist independent of the sun, the wind, the rain, the water, the birds, the plant? How did we do that? Deep ego. Deep ego. Seva is that understanding of our interconnectedness with all of humanity, all sentient being, all nature, that we are one. And it is to act out of that understanding. That is the second leg then on the path, right? First meditation, of course. Seva. These two processes are those processes by engaging in, we are able to begin to free ourselves from the confinements of our ego. And savor is such a beautiful thing. Grady, sir, can I say a few more words on this? All right. Now, this savor is beautiful because there's many levels of it. Everybody can serve. That's the first thing. It's beautiful because God has put in each one of us some talent that is absolutely unique. I mean, absolutely unique, brother. Not duplicated in any other human being from the past, will never be duplicated in any human being in the future for all time. Absolutely unique. And it has incarnated that quality in you. It is at the core of your being. When people love you, Bradley, it's not at the level of your personality, right? They're responding to this in you, you see? Those who can feel it, right? And those who can see this beautiful thing in you, do we have any choice but to fall in love with you? We're conquered, you understand? God has given us something to conquer with, right? And that is this unique quality, this unique aspect of itself that it has manifested very deep in the recesses of God. And out of that thing, you see, we can make a great contribution to humanity. Meditation helps us to develop, right? To reawaken, to resurrect, to manifest, and let it flow out into our life, right? Savor is that sharing. And even if you haven't fully resurrected it, that's all right. You see, if you only got 10% of your divinity up and functional, great. Do savor out of that. Don't wait to become perfect. You see my point? 1 ounce of the sharing of the best that is in you with the balance of humanity is good enough. It's good enough. You see, it's not a small thing. And we share it, right? Because we understand our interdependency. You see. Now, if you have been able to acquire some wealth, the first level of savor is savor at the level of wealth, physical, mundane. What is my advantage in sharing my wealth? Well, I empower people. I enrich people. I keep them from breaking in and robbing me. Simple. Simple. It's in my best interest. It's prudential. It is wise. That's why all of the tradition have built that factor into their tradition. In Islam, you must do zakat. Clear. A real Muslim does zakat. You give up 1/40th or whatever it is of your income back. It makes sense. You want to keep the society prosperous. You don't want them on the edge of desperation. Because when they become desperate, then you are in trouble, rich man. So why get into that position? You share. In ancient Kemet, it was clearly understood that at every harvest time, everybody in the land would bring a portion of their harvest to the great temples in Karnak and Luxor. That's how they generated so much wealth. And then and from there, those temples were redistributed the wealth back to those people whose crops didn't do so good. Do you understand? Of course, that's gone today. I don't know how many churches are redistributing anything. But the point is that it began, with, you see, as a very practical solution to the desperation that poverty creates in culture. The saints are against poverty. That's a deterioration of their teachings that is now talking about it's something nice in being poor. There's nothing nice in being poor. It makes you desperate. It makes you desperate. Their whole approach was, let's enrich everybody in the culture. What's the problem? Right? So we have no poor people. In ancient Africa, they didn't want no poor people. They wanted no widows. They wanted no orphans. And they took means and they set up institutions to guarantee that. So that now no orphan has to lay out in the street and fend for themselves like they do today, right? No widow had to try to struggle. That's how polygamy came into being. One sister would say, come on into my house. Your man is gone. Come on in. You see? You should not suffer like that. So it was a very different kind of concept, you see. So it is at the physical level. We talk about savor with one's wealth. Right? If you don't want to empower people, then empower those institutions that are empowering people. You know, supporting good works, and you all understand from that kind of thing. So I won't spend a great deal of time on that. I'll talk about some aspects of savor that may not be so obvious. Certainly one of the most profound aspect of savor, and we're moving in a hierarchy now, okay? Because when you give something to a person, automatically it causes a depletion in your side. It's just simple arithmetic. Of course, it's good that you have the spirituality to take a law, but the arithmetic is not effective, right? Grady Saab, if I have $1 million, I give you $500,000, I reduce my wealth by $500,000. You see? No problem if I have the spirituality, and I understand what I'm doing here. But when you move your savor to the next level, when you're able to do savor at the next level, at the level of knowledge, then the mathematics change. Now, if I gave you all of my knowledge, do I lose any of mine? You see? There is no law. So the deeper you go in the savor, the more minimum is the loss. And you reach a point where there's even a gain. More about it in a minute. So when we do savor at the level of knowledge, what is it that we're doing? We're sharing our knowledge, our wisdom with other people. You got some wisdom. If you've been on the planet for 15 minutes, you got some wisdom. You see? We mustn't confuse wisdom with degrees from university. That's information. Nothing wrong with it, but don't confuse it. Right? All of us, with no exception, has wisdom because you made in the image of wisdom. You see? You made in this image, built into, a priori, came with the package called being a human being. You see? And it manifests in the form of your intuition. Notice your intuition has never been wrong about anything. Go, check it out. Check it out. And you have only made mistakes when you fail to follow your intuition. That knowledge that is coming deep in you, beyond the realm of logic and reasoning, where no thinking is done, no syllogistic thinking is done, no reasoning, no deductive or inductive reasoning is involved, where knowledge just manifests out of nowhere and is always accurate. But you may be too weak. That's another matter, right? You may be too deluded, too overconfident in your own rational abilities, you see, and then you dismiss your intuition, right? And you always suffer as a result of that. So this intuition, this innate wisdom is in all of us, with no exception. I want to underline that, you see. It's not that a man with a PhD is inherently more wise than a man that never even seen the inside of the school. I'm not talking about that kind of thing at all. I'm talking about the very fact that you have been given this human birth and body. You automatically are endowed with all of those divine qualities already built into you. If God is omniscient, all-knowing, infinitely wise, you are made in His image. The only difference being quantity, not quality, right? You are God on a miniature level, right? There's something of God's omniscience in you. Do you follow me? And that manifestation of God's omniscience in you is experienced at the level of your intuition. It contains the sum total of all your experiences in your previous birth. When you make a decision out of your intuition, you are looking at all of the data from day one. Goes into that. When you're using your reasoning process, you're only looking at the data from this life, and you can't remember half of that. You understand? Right? So how can a conclusion reached on incomplete data be accurate? It can't be. Right? You use your reason to marry this man, and it didn't work naturally. You see? You use your reasoning, and that also did not work. Your reasoning has been behind all of your strategy. Look at the stuff. You sat down and plotted, drank coffee, and tried to reason out. Let me see what I can do. You got your pen and paper, you drew a T and put pro, con, and you did that whole analysis thing, right? You see, most of you just got so confused, you just tore it up, right? Some became so schizophrenic, they can't do nothing now. They created a dilemma for themselves. They found so many pros and so many cons that they are paralyzed. Now they can't do neither. See? They can't figure it out. You see? They injured themselves. Right? Intuition is a very different phenomenon. And we all have that kind of wisdom. And the next level of saving is the sharing of that wisdom, that knowledge, in whatever shape, form, fashion that you want. You see? Now, as an example of that, for instance, now, there's so many of you come here. One of the things that I'm encouraging all of you to do is to reduce your wisdom to writing so that it may be shared with others. Why don't you want other people to become wise? Because remember, the people that is giving you the most hell are the ones who are not wise. The people that is causing you all of this suffering is those who have not evolved spiritually because nobody's giving them teaching. Ptahotep says that nobody is born wise. Therefore, the need for a ma'at sefer. Case closed. And if you refuse to share your wisdom with others to enhance their own wisdom, to mingle it with their own wisdom, to create an increase in wisdom in the culture, then these same ignorant people, like poor people, will create hell for you. There's nothing more dangerous than a spiritually ignorant person. Please make a note. And to the extent we withhold knowledge, to the extent we contribute to their ignorance. Is that a fact? So we have to share it. And don't be worried that you don't have no PhD. Nobody cares nothing about no PhD. You got a degree from God. You have it. You understand me? There is no higher degree than that. You have graduated from the University of God. That's deep. You are qualified. You got wisdom. You've been cruising through creation for a million lifetimes. You done picked up all kinds of knowledge in that process and stored it in the form of your intuition. You see? So we need to share our knowledge. And those of you who come to the house, I encourage you, I implore you, I beg you, to start reducing your wisdom into writing in the form of books and things so that wisdom can be shared. You follow me? Does that make sense, Grady Saab? I have to check with Grady Saab all the time here because he puts the stamp of approval on things. And in any event, those of you who don't feel the confidence in your own wisdom, who have not yet matured to that point, if you have confidence in my wisdom, then translate my talks. Fine. I have no problem with that. But be active. Do something by way of increasing the knowledge of it. And just don't take these teachings and let them perish with you. The only reason we are able to hear teachings is because there's been a great tradition kept alive. Is that right? Somebody kept that stuff alive so that it could be passed on. People died to be able to pass that knowledge down to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. And it will be a tragedy if this knowledge stops with you, wouldn't it? Brandon, should you not pass it down the best you know how? We got all this technology. Y'all got all these computer skills and degrees. Put that stuff to work in the service of humanity. Do that make sense to you? Or does it only make sense to me? I know it makes sense to one other person in here. Her name is Dhamma because I think in less than a week, she has worked day and night. And one of the teachings that she encountered here at the house were the teachings on Bhagwan. And from there, she just fell in love with these teachings. She claims, and I don't know, she probably exaggerated it, she became enlightened with those teachings. But she certainly said that it released her from a lot of confusion that had caused her so much pain and suffering in her life. And out of her deep gratitude, you see, because your thank yous, to me, Dharma Maji, are not necessary. What is necessary is the sharing of what you got from the teachings with others. That would please me. You understand? That is what turns me on. That is what gets my juices flowing. You understand? Because you've understood more than Bhagavad teaching. You've understood compassion. You understand? You've understood savor. And what I love, and I don't mean to embarrass you, Dhammaji, and I certainly don't want to reinforce your ego. I want you to remember there's nothing special about you. Everybody in here have done some things. I'm just using you as an example because I've grown accustomed to it. But she certainly put together a pamphlet on the discourses on the Bhagwan teachings. For those of you who have not been exposed to it, and I believe she has several other tapes that she has translated. And so, with my love, I must sign it and acknowledge her savor. You see, she has done something to help these great saints and sages keep the knowledge moving. And I would love to sit up here every week and receive something from each and every one of you, because I know what's in Dhamma Majis in each and every one of you. You see, you got it. You see, and I'm asking you now. It's your turn to step forward and give us and share with us this wisdom that God has given you. Because God did not give you this wisdom to keep for yourself. You're being very selfish about this. You see, the wisdom was put in you in order for you to manifest it and share with with us. And to the extent you do not do that, you deprive us. Bradley, you cheat us, and God will punish you for that. Because you are keeping for yourself that which he has given to you to give to us, who are in need of wisdom. Dhamamaji has understood that, and she's rendering unto God what is God. Don't worry about rendering unto Caesar what is Caesar. Caesar got a tax system. You see what I'm saying? He's going to get his. You don't have to worry about that. You get no credit for that. You render unto God what is his. You give us this knowledge and you stop where you're at. Is that fair enough? Dr. Ramaji, thank you. Here's your own child back to you. Huh? Please come and get your own knowledge. Huh? And let's give her a hand. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. And there's Cedra. Savor with your mind is powerful, more powerful than savor with your mind. More powerful, lasts longer, goes deep, never evaporates. Travel with you from birth to birth. Share your knowledge. Don't be so modest. See, you're made in the image of greatness. See? But there's another higher level of higher than even the savor with your mind and your intelligence and your knowledge. And that is the savor with your spiritual practices. That is the savor of meditation. And I've talked about that here in this room on a past occasion. But again, it bears a little repeating. And for those who were not there, again, please see Bilal or Satra. They have the entire libraries. That has been their savor. I don't want to give the impression that we're so impoverished here in the house of Ra that we only have one person that feels that way. Every person that I've seen that comes through the house has done something. They don't know what they've done, you see. But this man has been recording these talks for almost 4 years. It's a lot of work in that. You see, that's his savor. He does that. You understand? This man back here has made so many tapes. This man has given I had to stop him from giving me money. It's interesting. Some people, you have to pull money out of it. You know what I mean? I said they have a donation jar there. This man never, my problem with him is, don't give me no more of your money. I don't need this. Why are you doing this? And we have big fights set around now about this thing. You see? Because if I let him, he'll give me everything. You see, you have to stop a man like that. That's too much. I can't handle that. You see? There is a love that is overwhelming. You see? A love that makes you faint, lose consciousness. It is such a thing that people can be too good to you. That's possible. If you're lucky in life. Some of you, of course, have not had that experience. You didn't have the karma for it. You're still looking for people like that. My karma's been just a wee bit better. You see, I've encountered him in this lifetime. You see, I call him the Mahatma, the great soul, the great self. And then we have so many people, and I don't want to embarrass anybody, I don't want to sing out anybody, but we wouldn't even be sitting in this place without the savor of Florida and Bhagwan Sadiq. They arrange all these things. I'm not that intelligent. How am I going to pull all this stuff off? You all know that, right? So many people, you see. So we have enough examples, you see, of people who have done such great things. And I want you to get a taste of this. Because when you're doing savor, you are out of your ego. When you're doing savor, you are in reality. You are in connection again. You see, you're doing stuff for the benefit of other people. And just in that process, you get some temporary relief from your own ego and its preoccupation with self-gratification. Pam, just yesterday I was at the Board of Education doing a conference and workshop for principals and teachers and all of that stuff. Bradley know I do these kind of things. And one of the ladies was there from Lewis Academy over at Hyde Park, right behind the Blackstone. You don't even remember. Pam, you touched the woman so deeply. She's giving me her name and phone number and home number, and she needs you to call her so that you can come to the school and do some more saving. And that was because of your saving that you did at the Black Stone with no compensation. You certainly didn't get no help from me. I was useless to you. And you stood before these people and you taught them how to relieve their suffering from anger. And you touched these people. It was great saving. You see? And all the flowers in the world could not illustrate my gratitude for that. So I don't want to turn this into a testimony because I don't want to leave nobody out. I simply am pointing out a few examples of the benefits that can occur as a result of doing saving. This Dharma Maji was saying that she could not sleep. She was grinning all over the place. She was so happy. You see? Doing the saving brought us such pleasure. And I want you to know the taste of the pleasure when you are able to function outside of you and your own little narrow ambitions. You understand? There's great bliss in savor. In fact, in the literature, the mystics said, don't even give me enlightenment, give me savor. Because enlightenment, I don't know much about that. You see what I'm saying? Give me this savor. It has cash value. It pays off right now. You see? Why wait till I die and go to heaven? You see? Give me my payment now. Give me the savor. Savor of the Lord is sweet to me. So write the great mystics and sages. Check it out. They might know what they ought to know. So finally we have arrived to the final, ultimate form of savor. Savor with the spirit. Savor of the level of the soul. Savor in the form of meditation. Where our whole effort now is to become enlightened. Not just for our sake, but for the benefit of all sentient beings. To pursue enlightenment, not just so that I will be happy and the hell with the other people on the planet. I know there's many of you who have approached enlightenment only with the intention of your own peace, bliss. The pursuit of meditation and enlightenment that the mystics talk about is that pursuit of enlightenment, bliss, for purposes of benefiting all sentient beings whom you are inextricably connected with. Look at the wisdom of that. If all of us became a Buddha, we can't even conceive of it. Can't even conceive of it. If all of us attained the same consciousness of a Christ, look at this. Heaven would be wherever we are. We would have brought the whole concept of heaven down to earth. Right? If we could all be Buddha. And by our working on our own meditation and our own spiritual development with the express purpose of attaining enlightenment, full enlightenment, so that we may be of maximum benefit to all sentient beings. It is a tremendous saving. It is a tremendous saving. It is the highest saving. Maharaji used to always say, June, that just to start that process of enlightenment, just to do, for instance, savor with the mind in such a way that we're able to disseminate teachings. And remember I said disseminate teaching, share teaching. I didn't say proselytize. I did not say beat people over the head. I am not into converting nobody. Who are you to convert anybody? You see? Don't get this confused, because some of you have been in the churches so long, you are all confused about savor. You see? You think to help a person spiritually, they got to drop their Islam and become a Christian. If they're not, and then you fight with them. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about sharing. You see? The knowledge does not interfere with anybody's religion. Religion is a separate phenomenon. It has nothing to do with spirituality at all. Why are you interfering with their religion? You see? If you're going to interfere with their suffering, their sorrow. If you're going to convert them from misery to bliss. But to do that, you must have some bliss. The only way to get that, you got to work on your meditation. Right? Grady Saab was asking me just a week or so ago about this savor of sharing teachings, helping people come to the path. I had shared with him during the fact that Maharaji has often said that the merit and virtue accumulated by sharing the knowledge with a person that results in them coming to the path is equivalent to saving the life of 3 million drowning babies. Tremendous. Because you have been instrumental in putting them on the path that leads them back to God. And the reward is immense. You see? Immense. And so naturally the man got excited, right? Right? He's a businessman after all, right? He knows a good deal, right? But I warned him and I cautioned him. I said, but don't confuse this sharing of the teaching with people as proselytizing. It has nothing to do with it. Right? You are simply to share. Like a rose, Sandra, like a rose emits its odor and aroma free. It does not matter who partakes, whether it's a poet, a bee, a dog, it makes no difference. The rose simply emits the aroma of it. In the same way, a spiritual seeker emits and shares this knowledge. Here. With those who agree with them, those who disagree with them, makes no difference. It's like the sun. It's God-like. Just as God has given life to all of us, right? The sun heats all of us. It makes no distinction. When you are functioning out of your divinity, there can be no distinctions. And they're looking for nothing in return. It's not like, well, man, I gave you this book. Did you read it? Now you ready to drop your Islam and join us? It's not that. You see, no expectation. You see, at all. Each of us is moving at our own pace. The Lord that has created this creation knows what it's doing. Don't worry about it. Everything is happening the way it's supposed to happen. You see, just relax. You just do your part. God will take care of his part. Don't worry about it. You see, you simply share. You're not looking for anything in return. You're not looking for them to call you and say, oh, thank you very much, good sound. You gave me this here, man. You know, I know. No. And even if you can't stop them from praising you, do not accept it. Pass it up. It doesn't belong to you. Because the knowledge was given to you. It's not your knowledge. You didn't even know this stuff. Be clear on this thing. You pass it up. All of these talks that is going on in the house of God. Some of you become so confused, you think that this Bhagwan is a brilliant man and knows all this stuff and this. Let me set this thing very clear for you. This Bhagwan is simply repeating to you what has been told to him. This Bhagwan is doing seva. I'm not here because of you, I'm doing seva. You understand? This is seva. For my own guru. Out of my gratitude. You see, Dhamma Maharaji, you wrote a book. You spent 7 days. I spent 30 years doing this savor. You understand? This is savor that I'm doing. You see? And anything that I know only because these great gurus have preferred their knowledge upon me. So we have to be clear about this. And I have been deliriously happy all the day. Huh? Because this savor is sweet. Well, I think we said enough for today. So those of you who are interested in doing some savor, sharing your knowledge, your wealth, or whatever it is that you feel you wish to share, you're most welcome and encouraged. Now, who's in charge of this? See, I don't know who's in charge of savor. Grady Saab, okay, Grady Saab. So see Grady Saab, and Grady Saab will help create an opportunity for you to do some savor and get some temporary relief from your suffering rooted in your ego. And just a few announcements for those of you I know in the past who have come as a result of seeing some programs on TV, some on anger and anger management and things of that nature. At Truman College, for those of you for whom it's convenient, for the next 3 Saturdays from 11 to 1, I do a training on anger management there. You're most welcome to access that class. There's no charge or anything. You're most welcome to come. Those of you who might need a tune-up on your anger, you too are most welcome to come. And that's at Truman College Room 2953. And you can always call myself or Bilal if you need more information. Immediately following here, we're going over, where are we going, Bilal?
Kelly Branch, 62nd and Norm.
Kelly Branch?
Right.
Library?
I think it's a library.
All right.
Second floor.
Second floor. There's another association and group of black men who are having a meeting today where we will be discussing death, dying, and the management of suffering for black men only by their decree. It's not my activity, but certainly those black men in here who would like to go over and fellowship with some more brothers, you're most welcome to come. No offense to the ladies. I hope you don't take any offense. But there's a kind of misery we suffer as black men that we're kind of ashamed for you all to see. We don't want you to lose respect for us. So black men in the house, if you have some free time, you are also most welcome to come in. All right, now who are the new people in here?